us. Okay. So the last item that we have discussed, guys, are the two type of errors, type 1 error and type 2 error. I hope you can still remember what are the differences between these two errors. Level of significance, guys, I hope you can see the entire screen there. I think that's better if I'm going to din ako mag-slideshow para di siya mahinay. Sige. I hope you can see the entire screen, guys. There. I think that's better. Let me know if you can't. Where's the chat box? Kaning chat box kay ari diri sa ubos para I can see your questions. All right. So, level of significance, guys, is like allowing you as a researcher to commit mistake or percentage of error. Most of the researchers, especially in medical field research, they would provide or they would set a percentage of error somehow close to 0.0001. What does it mean? As much as possible, they would commit less error because when it comes to medical research, human lives are at stake. Importante siya nga as much as possible gamay rag error. But for other papers or other researches, they would set it to either 0.10, 0.05, or 0.1. If you're going to be the researcher, soon it's up to you which level of significance you're going to use. There's no one who will impose or will force you to use 0.10. It's your decision or prerogative to choose. For our case, since we are still doing the study of this item, what we're going to do, guys, is I'm going to set the level of significance for us para uniform yung answer. Okay? Because if I would just allow you to make your own or choose your own level of significance, it would be hard for me to check your paper individually kaya maglailahi man ang values in yung answer. Okay? So that's the level of significance. Next item is going to be how to get next. The critical value and critical region or rejection region, and the acceptance region. I'm not going to discuss more about these words here, guys, but I hope you can read the definition of these words. But later on, as we go on solving hypothesis testing, we are going to cover these things here. Okay? So the critical value, the critical region, and then the acceptance region. Next page is here. This is the situation when you are going to decide if you're going to reject your null hypothesis or accept your null hypothesis. The shaded region, which is in violet color, will be the rejection area. So any value that falls within the shaded region, guys, will be the rejection area. So let's say, for example, your value that you have solved in your test statistics using the hypothesis testing falls within the shaded area, then you are going to reject the null hypothesis. Okay? So again, if your test statistic falls within the shaded area, you're going to reject the null hypothesis. If your test statistic falls within the acceptance region or acceptance area, then you're going to accept the null hypothesis. Clear? Is that clear? So your basis of acceptance and rejection, guys, is the null hypothesis. And when to decide, it's going to be determined by your test statistic. So let's proceed to the next slide. I'm not going to dwell on this because this is not kind of useful for us. Let's try to go directly with this one here. I'm going to go directly with actual example, guys, but let's have this example here first. This is technically not a homework, but just an exercise. A researcher thinks that if expectant mothers use vitamin pills, the birth weight of the babies will increase. The average birth weight of the population is 8.6 pounds. So I want you to determine, or I want you to state the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. Okay, naayag-chat sa GC. Waiting. Ano nag-asog passcode? Wait. One moment. There should be no passcode. Wait, can you see it, guys? It's 341 623. Try that. I know, no, no. That's for 11D, my bad. Sorry. That's for other block. Use this instead. Um oh, he's getting in. 161413. There. Okay. All right. So yeah, going back to the situation, guys. A researcher thinks that if expectant mothers use vitamin pills, the birth weight of the babies will increase. The average birth weight of the population is 8.6 pounds. So how are we going to state the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis here? Based on what we have covered before or last time, the null hypothesis is a situation where the population parameter doesn't change or there's no difference. Okay? So, with that being said, our null hypothesis for this problem, guys, will be mu equals 8.6. Okay? The alternative hypothesis will be mu greater than 8.6. Why did I use greater than? Because of the statement that says will increase. So you need to be careful in reading the situation, guys, or the problem. You have to level a little bit higher your reading comprehension in determining the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. Okay? So again, how to answer test of hypothesis or hypothesis testing. The clues are going to be in the problem. You're not gonna get the answer outside from the problem. You just have to analyze the problem. So if I'm going to ask you which one of these two is the claim, how do you define claim, guys? Claim is like a propose. Synonym is propose. It's what you assert. It's what you believe. It's what you think. It's what you offer. That's claim. If you're going to read again the problem, a researcher thinks that if expectant mothers will use or mothers use vitamin pills, the birth weight of the babies will increase. This clearly says that our claim is the alternative hypothesis. Katulang nga statement ang katong first statement. The researcher thinks that those mothers or those expectant mothers who take vitamin pills, there is a possibility that the weight of their baby will increase. So that's how we determine the null and alternative hypothesis as well as the claim. Okay, let's have next example. I'm going to clear this drawing, huh? Next example. Here. A psychologist feels that playing soft music during a test will change the results of the test. Do you believe in that? As like whenever you take an examination, then you are listening to music, you would get better scores. What do you think? So for this example, guys, our null hypothesis, it's going to be very easy because as I said, the null hypothesis would be the situation where there is no difference between a specific parameter and the population parameter or specific statistic. So null hypothesis is always equal to the mean or the average. In this case, it's 73. The alternative hypothesis in this case, guys, is what? It's going to be not equal to. Why it's not equal to instead of less than or greater than? It is not mentioned in the situation, guys, if it's going to decrease or if it's going to increase. What was mentioned in the problem is will change. So when we say will change, we don't know what type of change. It could be it increases or it could be it decreases. However, the most appropriate one is not equal to. Which one is the claim? The claim for this problem, guys, if we're going to reread the problem or the situation, it's going to be the alternative hypothesis. So a psychologist feels that the playing soft music during a test will change the results of the test. So that's clearly telling us that statement gives us an idea that the alternative hypothesis is the claim. Questions so far? 1 minute, and then just type in your questions if you have any. If not, I'll proceed to the next slide. Okay. All right, so it seems like nobody has any questions. I'm going to be proceeding to the next slide now. Okay, so these are the following steps, guys, in doing the hypothesis testing. If you remember in our introduction earlier, before, that hypothesis test is a step-by-step process of making a decision or a decision-making process in which one step would not be enough. So it would be consisted of 2, 3, or more steps. Now, these 5 steps that I am showing you as of this moment, guys, these are the steps that I have consolidated on my references, including your book and other books from other authors, especially outside the Philippines. So yeah, there are books that would give us 7 steps to do the hypothesis testing. There are also books that would give us 4 steps only. There are other books would give us 3 steps, or in fact, there are 9 some books that would give us 9 steps. However, these steps that I'm showing you guys are the consolidated steps that I have covered or gathered from all the references they have. So we have the first step, state the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis, and then identify the claim. Second is find the critical value from the appropriate table. The reason why I said appropriate table here, guys, is that we're going to be using different tables. One for Z table, one for T table, one for chi-square table, one for ANOVA table, one for regression and correlation analysis table. So there are a lot of tables. With that being said, there's also a lot of test statistics that we are going to be considering in this topic here. Number 3, compute the test value. This is very crucial, guys, because you need to know which formula to use depending on the situation of the hypothesis testing. Number 4, this is where you are going to decide whether you are going to accept the null or reject the null hypothesis. And again, as I've said earlier, it depends if your test statistic or your step 3, where or asa siya ma-fall in the illustration. Is it going to be in the rejection area or acceptance area? And then number 5 is your summary, your conclusion as to what's happening with your solution. Let's have one example. Before I'll discuss one example, guys, let's talk about the first test statistic that we are going to be discussing. The first statistical treatment, or we call it statistical tool or statistical treatment, or test statistic. Yeah, many names, but they mean the same thing. Z-test for a mean will be used. Okay, be careful. This is important that you need to take note. Z-test for a mean, guys, will be used if and only if, first, the population standard deviation is given. Do you see that symbol there with like an O? Can you see that? This one. This is the population standard deviation. If it's given in the problem, guys, you're gonna be using z-test for the mean. And if you're going to ask me in advance, or what if it's not given in the problem? It's going to be another test that we are going to use, not z-test anymore. Okay? I hope it's clear. And then another supporting requirement for you to use z-test for mean is first, the sample is randomly picked. Second, the sample size or the n is either greater than 30, or if it's less than 30, dapat the population is normally distributed, meaning to say the population should follow the normal curve. Okay? And this is the formula for the z-test for mean. This is kind of familiar to you guys because we covered this before. This is, in fact, the central limit theorem in the denominator there. So the x bar is a sample mean. The mu is the hypothesized population mean or the claim. The circle with a line above it, it's a population standard deviation. And lastly, the n is the sample size. So I'll give you 1 minute to focus and um, stare on the screen, guys, and try to maybe figure or not figure, but be familiar with yourself adding a formula. 1 minute. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay. All right. No questions. Let's proceed to one of our examples here. I hope you can see the entire screen. A researcher wishes to see if the mean number of days that a basic low price small automobile sits on dealer's lot is 29. A sample of 36 automobile dealers has a mean of 30.1 days for basic low price small automobiles. At alpha 0.05, test the claim that the mean is greater than 29 days. The standard deviation of the population is 3.8 days. So I want you to read the problem on your own, guys, silently in your. Some people might be lying down on their bed, or some people might be sitting right now, or some people might be eating. So while you are doing your stuff there, kindly read the problem on your own and please understand it. I'm gonna give you like 2 minutes. Not what I mean to say to understand it, guys. Imagine yourself, you are the researcher. Imagine yourself that you are in the problem. Sige, go. 2 minutes. It's 2:13, so I believe you have 2 minutes to work on it, to think about it. So let me delete this. This was from the last exam, last or previous block. There. I hope you can see it. Ana. Sige. Ay, no, is that it? Di man na mao. Ano man dapat? Let me remove that. Kana. Example number 1. 2 minutes starts now. It is now recording. Thank you so much for that. 1 minute. All right, time's up. Okay. So I'm gonna ask one person or people to answer each questions, or not questions, but each statement or each step. So let me hear from Alisa Tan. What's gonna be our statement of hypothesis? What's our null and alternative hypothesis? Hello, Alisa, are you there? Thank you. Alisa said that the null hypothesis is mu equals, she said 30.01, and the alternative hypothesis is mu greater than 30.01. Okay, thank you so much for that answer, Alyssa. Now, we're going to correct it, guys, but Alyssa is almost correct, guys. That's a good attempt, Alyssa. Now, when we say mu, guys, remember that mu is a symbol for population mean, right? It's a symbol of population mean. Now, this 30.1 is the mean right after the researcher picked a sample of 36 automobile dealers. With that being said, ang kanang 30.01, guys, is not a population mean, but that's a sample mean. Clear? Does it make sense? Does it make sense? So in other words, we're not going to be using the 30.1 as the mean for the hypotheses that we have. We should be using instead the 29, because that 29 is coming from what the researcher claims, or what the problem claims. It says nga the researcher daw wants to check or wishes to check if ang mean sa days katong basic low price small automobile sits on dealer's lot is 29. And to make sure if it's really true, that's when he picked 36 automobile dealers. And that 36 automobile dealers produces 30.1 mean days, or days as the mean for that sample size. You're already good that you are able to choose greater than Alyssa. That's already good. I believe Alyssa chose the greater than because of this statement here. The mean is greater than 29. So I hope you guys understand why not 30.1, but instead it's 29. Okay? Good job. So I'm gonna ask Alyssa, can you tell me which one is the claim? Is it the null hypothesis or the alternative hypothesis? Kakutas og mag-discuss og stat, guys. Wordy kayo. So which one is the claim? The null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. You have to choose one of these two hypotheses. So this is what I mentioned earlier. Nga dapat you have to level your reading comprehension a little bit higher so that you would be able to understand the situation in the problem. So alternative, very good. Good job. How did you know it, Aliza? Did you reread the problem? Did you read it again? Diba? Sometimes we read the problem several times para mas makasabot kita. Your answer is correct. It's the alternative hypothesis is the claim. Good job, Alisa. Thank you so much for your answer, Dai. Let's work on step number 2. Step number 2 is finding the critical value. I'm not gonna ask anyone because wala man ako na siya na-discuss how to find it. So I'm gonna discuss it to you guys. I asked someone for the step 1 because I mentioned man ako before how to determine and how to state the null and alternative hypothesis. So step 2, find the critical values from the appropriate table. Remember that, again, we should already know, by the way guys, before we state the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis, we should already know that, or we should already know what type of test statistics that we are going to use for this problem. The clue here is this line. The standard deviation of the population is 3.8. According to what I have mentioned earlier, if the standard deviation is given or known, the population standard deviation is given or known, then you are going to use z-test for mean. So with that being said, dapat kahibaw na tadaan na z-test na siya before even stating the null and alternative hypothesis. Okay? Good. Now, how to determine the critical value for step number 2? Okay. I'm going to choose different color. Kanilang, no. Let's try orange. So, I'm going to be illustrating you the normal curve, guys. There. And this is the mean. Familiar na, that's the mean. So I'm going to be looking at here. If you're going to ask me, sir, why did you look at the right side of the normal curve? Kaning step 2, guys, will be affected. Kung sa mahitabo sa mong step 2 will be an implication of step 1. Okay? Kay kaning alternative hypothesis, everyone, this would give us an idea kung asa nga side sa curve ang atong kuhaan o rejection area. If you notice, the alternative hypothesis of your step 1 is using greater than nga symbol. That means to say that I should be looking at the right side of the curve because it's greater than. Dito nga right side. Okay? Now, the area of this shaded region I just did is actually the alpha. There. Kana siya, mo na siyang given alpha here. So pasabuti ani guys, this is somewhere here is the error nga ako ang i-consider. At least 0.05 ma-commit to error. Now, the critical value is a value that I'm going to take a look kung unsa ni siya diri kani siya nga point here, not the area. So saan na to ba kahibaw na guys? If this is 0.05 here, pila may area aning unshaded region. In other words, kanang wala naka-shade nga region. So if you're going to get your calculator, the half of the normal curve is 0.50 man, no? Minus 0.05, your answer is 4500. Kana. So mo nang area sa wala gi-shaded nga region. And then we're gonna be using the Z table. Okay? Remember I said before nga all these numbers nga nasa white portion are areas from 0 to a specific z-score. Now, in our illustration that we have here, the area that we have from 0 to whatever value that we have here is 0.4500. So we're gonna look at asa man nadapita ang 4500 sa kaninga situation here. So asa man ang 4500? Let me choose a color. I think natin duha kabok option. We have 4500, no? 45. We have these two options. Kanang 4495 o 4505. Agree? They both have the same distance from 4500. Tag 5 units ta. So sir, pila ka buka mong critical value, sir, if we see a number that is close to the area that you just showed earlier, you have the freedom to choose one, either of the two. Okay? Now, if anything that you can say that there's closer than the other, you need to choose the closer one. Clear? So in this case here, we have the same distance naman, 4495. You have 5 units to get to 4500. 4505, you also have 5 units to go back to 4500. So in other words, we have two options. I'm gonna be choosing one lang, kay same naman sila distance. So let's say, for example, I'm gonna be using this 04495. What is the standard z-score for that? So just take a look at pilay z-score to the left and pilay z-score going up. So in other words, that's 1.64. That's your critical value. So going back sa tuang, let me here admit. Going back sa tuang step, this follows that this one here is positive 1.64. That's our critical value. That's what we have done, finding the critical values from the appropriate table. The reason why I use z-table because this is a z-test for a mean. And why this is a z-test for a mean? It's because the standard deviation of the population is given or known. Okay? So we're good with step 2. Let's work on step 3 na. Step 3. Step 3, guys, is compute the test statistic or test value. And the formula that I showed you before or earlier is sample mean minus population mean over the standard deviation over the square root of n. Okay? As what I have explained earlier, the sample mean is 30.1. Ngano ganing sample mean na siya? Because that's the mean produced by the 36 sample of automobile dealers. Okay? Minus the population mean of 29 over the standard deviation of 3.8 days over the square root of n. N is the sample size. This case is 36, right? 36. So by using your calculator, guys, you should be able to simplify it. 30.1 minus 29 over 3.8 and then square root of 36. The answer should be 1.74. Agree? You can just confirm using your calculator for that if it's really 1.74. But I can guarantee you my answer is 1.74. But if you have a different answer, you might want to double check na nung lahi ang answer sa inyong end. Okay, so let's work on step 4. Step 4. No? Make a decision to reject or not to reject the null hypothesis by showing the illustration. So the illustration that is meant by step 4, guys, is actually coming from step 2. So let me redraw the illustration that we have for step 2. There. And here. And then ang kanisha is 1.64. And this is the shaded region. Remember, the shaded region is the rejection area. So that's the rejection area. And then kaning unshaded ka, that's the acceptance region. Now, looking at step 3, the value that we have solved for step 3, guys, is 1.74. I'm going to ask one person, what's going to be our decision for step 4? Do we accept the null hypothesis or reject the null hypothesis? Romulo Balansag. You can type your answer. You can place yourself on mute. I hope he is not. I hope Romulo is there. So my question again, Romulo, is for step 4, do we accept the null hypothesis or reject the null hypothesis? And then your decision to do that is focus yourself on step three. What's the value solved in step three, and where does it land in step four? Accept? Okay, good try, Romulo. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Nga naada ka dira. Thank you again. So let's try to answer and see if Romulo is right, guys. Um, I still go. Thank you. Makita na tayo. Okay. So here, look at the value that we have solved for step three. We are able to solve 1.74, right? And our critical value is 1.64. So it clearly shows that 1.74 is, yes, is here, somewhere here, right? 1.74. But still, I appreciate Rob Malo's answer, guys, because that actually means nga he is present and he's listening to me, di ba? Lahira ba yun ng maminaw bisag kanang katagangon na huna. But the good thing is, Krisa corrected the answer. That's okay. That's okay. She said, or Krisa said, yes sir, it's reject. Kaya ang critical value na false sa reject na side. O, di ba? So in other words, the 1.74 that we just solved from step 3, guys, landed on the rejection area sa step 4. So with that being said, we're going to reject the null hypothesis. Reject. You can just write reject HO or reject the null hypothesis. Okay? Do you have question for that? If you notice, guys, kamantay mo nga ang step 1 mo connect to step 2, then step 2 mo connect step 3, step 3 mo connect to step 4. That's actually how it works when you do hypothesis testing. And ang problema lang ani, guys, is sir, if masayop ang usa, sir, na ay tendencies nga masayop ang tanan, I would say yes. Okay. So what's our step 5? Step 5, guys, is to summarize the result and state your conclusion. So since we are rejecting the HO, in other words, kani siya here, kaning step 1 na mawalik sa step 1 no, kaya connected siya. We are rejecting this, and this means to say nga we are accepting this. Tama? Tama? So you can say there is, you can state whatever statement that you want to say that would imply the same thing nga akong isuwat karon. There is enough evidence to support the claim. There you go. Or you can say there's enough evidence to support the alternative hypothesis. There's enough evidence to support the claim. There's enough evidence to say nga the mean is greater than 29. No matter how you say it, guys, as long as it means the same thing, that you are supporting the alternative hypothesis, I will accept it. Clear? So question for that one example. Medyo sa taas siya, guys, or what? Taas siya or daghanan siya buhatonon? What do you think? True, medyo taas siya gyud. Pero kaya na guys, sabi pa lang weak, di ba? Kasi a one, okay. Sige, let's work on one more example. Excuse me. Automobile. Sige. How about this? I'm gonna take a screenshot. Ay, butang ako diri sa ubos. Kana. Sige, I want you to read the problem, guys. And then I'll give you 2 minutes to read it and understand the problems. It's 2:35, 2:37. I think that would work. All right. So I hope you're able to understand the problem, guys. So let's start trying to answering this item. What's going to be our statement of hypothesis? Step 1. What's our null and what's our alternative hypothesis? Let me call people. Um, Samantha Rekla. So what's our null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis, Samantha Rekla? Got a feeling. Moon so bright, tonight so fine. Keep your heart here with mine. Life's a dream. We are dreaming. Race to moon, catch the wind. Ride the night till the end. Seize the day. Set up for a lifetime. Wala? Alright, so, okay. Thank you so much, Krisa. Yes, the null hypothesis is equal to, and then it's equal to 4,080, And the alternative hypothesis is less than 4,080. So may 5 points ka na, di ba? At 5 points each step dahil if na mo maka-answer, mapatay na 5 points, 0 na dayon. What's our claim here? Asa may claim na to ani? Alternative or null hypothesis? Alternative, very good. So this is the claim, oh, di ba? By Yates. Step 2. So mag-illustrate ta. We're gonna do the normal curve. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, guys, sorry. As I've mentioned earlier, sorry kung hiwi medyo ha. As I've mentioned earlier, whatever your alternative hypothesis, that would determine the step 2. Because you would actually shade which part of the curve man ang dapat i-shade. Because we are using less than for your alternative hypothesis, this follows that your shading should be on the left side as well. Clear? So in the event that your answer here is correct, less than, however, you showed me an answer or illustration doing this, I'm going to be tagged it as wrong because it wouldn't make sense. Imong alternative hypothesis is less than, but your critical value is on the right. So there's something wrong with it. Dili siya mo coincide, dili siya mo make sense. So make sure ana nga masakto gyud hang step 2. So kana somewhere there. And then nga kana siya middle. So again, this is the alpha or the area given in the problem is 0.10. That's the area for the shaded region. Now the question is, pila may area sa wala gi-shade nga region? Go. I want to spend. Is it kuan 4400? No? Positive kay area man 400. No? So kaning 400 guys, we're gonna find it on the Z table. No? So Z table. So here. Asa ka ng 0400 guys? If we cannot find the exact value, look for the closest one. Nata here. Kanino? Let me put a notation. Kani? O kani? Tama? Which is closer? 0.3997 or 0.4015? Good, thank you so much. Zivan answered 1.28. So in other words, you chose the 0.3997. Is that correct, Zivan? Sakto ba kung pronunciation sa mong name? Zivan? Sven. Okay. So, Sven or Zivan, guys, chose the 0.3997 because that's closer than compared to 4015. And the corresponding z-score for that number or for that area is 0.08 and this one here 1.2. So in other words, the critical value that we have is 1.28. Okay? But now twist, guys. Aside from saying it's 1.28, since we are on the left side of the curve, we're going to make it negative 1.28. Clear? So this is going to be negative 1.28. Amen? Question? Wala question? Okay. Now, next. Our step 3. Sorry, let me choose color. Step 3. We're going to be solving the test statistic na. Test statistic. So, sample mean minus mu over standard deviation over, sorry, what's going on? Over n. So the sample mean, guys, is wala ta kaibaw sa sample mean. Pero kaibaw ta sa population mean. The population mean is 4,080. The standard deviation is 979.20 over 0.20 na, guys, over square root of 36. Now, this is the actual sample nga gipick sa researcher. Kana siya. So in other words, you still have to solve for the sample mean. And I'm just gonna show you nga ako na siyang na-solve using Excel. So these are the scores, or these are the values that you can see diri sa tuang whiteboard, and these are the following scores. So I'm going to solve for the average, guys. I will just highlight it there. The average can be seen at the bottom part of your Excel. And that's 38, sorry, can average 3823.33. So it's 3823.83. There you go. So use your calculator, guys, to evaluate it. 3823.83 minus 4080 over 979.20 and then square root of 36. The answer is negative 1.57. So the answer is negative 1.57. So I'm going to call another person asking you if we're going to reject the null hypothesis or accept the null hypothesis. So let me call one more person, another person. The last person I called was Rekla and she didn't answer. How about Berioso? Go, Berioso. You can type your answer or you can place yourself on mute. So, yeah. Berioso, are we going to accept the null hypothesis or reject the null hypothesis? What do you think? 2 minutes. Berioso said rejects, or thank you so much. I didn't expect na answer ka dayon. Thank you. Yes, Berioso is right, guys. For step 4, you don't even have to redraw the illustration, guys. You can see it in step 2 naman. So to save time, you don't even have to redraw this illustration. You just have to check it. Asa man na fall si negative 1.57. If this is your critical value nga negative 1.28, klaro kaayo nga si negative 1.57 kay naa somewhere here, which is part of the rejection area. So we are going to reject the null hypothesis. Okay? So accepting the alternative hypothesis, so we're gonna be Xing this out. Guys, you don't have to follow me. You don't have to like put an X on the null hypothesis. I'm just showing it you ba nga para mas klaro sa inyong end. And then when you do step 5, guys, when you do step 5, that's when you state nga there is, since we are rejecting the null hypothesis, there's enough evidence to support the claim, or there's enough evidence to support the alternative hypothesis. That's another way to say it. You can also say there's enough evidence to support that the mean is really less than 4,080. Questions so far? Sige. How about question? Wala na question? Sige. I'll have one more example, guys, before we end this session. And this time, it's going to be a medical related example. So this one here. Where's my whiteboard? Okay, here. I hope everyone is still clear for you guys. If you're confused, please let me know. A researcher. Oh no, manamani. This is not weird. Here. Kani. Oops. What happened? Ana. A medical rehabilitation education foundation reports the average cost of rehabilitation for stroke victims is $24,627. To see if the average cost of the rehabilitation is different at a particular hospital, a researcher selects a random sample of 35 stroke victims at the hospital and finds that the average cost of their rehabilitation is $26,343. The standard deviation of the population is $3,251. At alpha 0.01, can it be concluded that the average cost of stroke rehabilitation at a particular hospital is different from $24,672. Okay. So guys, it's too wordy, but again, I hope you understand the situation. It's still gonna be a Z test for this situation, guys, because we have the population standard deviation. So I'm just gonna answer it for you. So we have the step one, guys. The null hypothesis is given by equal to 24,627. The alternative hypothesis will be what? It's going to be not equal to. Why not equal to? Because of the statement is different. It didn't say less than, it didn't say greater than, but it says it's different. And when we say it's different, it's not equal to. And the claim, guys, is going to be what? Is the null hypothesis this time. Why? The Medical Rehabilitation Education Foundation reports, so this is the claim, that the average cost of the rehabilitation for stroke victims is $24,627. So the null hypothesis is the claim. Step two. Now, if you notice, we are now using the not equal to. So basically, we are not going to be using this one-sided or one-tailed, nor this one. We are still not going to be using that. We are going to be using two-tailed type of test. Okay, not equal to manimuhang alternative hypothesis, and how it should work here. So I have two tails here. This is the mean. So this is the shaded region. Okay, we don't know the critical value yet, but we know what's the alpha. The alpha given, guys, is 0.01. So what you're going to do with the alpha, guys, is you are going to divide alpha by 2. That's going to be 0.01 over 2, which would give us 0.005, right? Nga naman na siya, sir. The reason why we're doing this because our alternative hypothesis uses a two-tailed test or not equal to. You're only going to be using this, or only going to be doing this if and only if your alternative hypothesis uses the not equal to symbol. If it's using the not, the less than or greater than, you don't have to divide the alpha by 2. You just go right away. Okay? So this means to say, guys, that each side of the shaded region has an area of 0.05, and this one as well is 0.05, 0.005 rather. So basically, this part here is what? 0.4950. Agree? So let's take a look at the z-score table. 495. I think natin makita nyo 495 here. Tara. We have the 4949 and the 4951. So basically, duha po na to ang duol nga value. So let me annotate. So we have 4951 and the 4949. So natay duha ka book values. Either we have 2.57 or 2.58. Kani. O kana. So pili lang ta ng duha. I'm gonna be using 2.57, okay? So let me go back to the previous, okay. And let me clear the annotation. So here, because we chose a 2.57, we know that this part here is positive 2.57 and this part here is positive negative 2.57. So those are your critical values for a two-tailed test. And step 3, step 4, step 5 would follow the same thing that we did in the previous two examples. So you can just continue, guys, doing it on your own and confirm it if it's going to be rejecting the null hypothesis or accepting the null hypothesis. Questions so far? I'll give you 5 minutes to work on it. Let me know what's your answer. Okay, question. Sir, why gali ang HO ang claim? Okay, Simon, here. Look at the situation. The Medical Rehabilitation Education Foundation reports. So when you say the word reports, guys, it's like kanang providing the data ba? Providing the data. Murag ka na kaning kuan. Mao ni ako ang report karon. Okay. If I were to be the rehabilitation center, say mao ni akong nabuhat nga report. Ng average costs to rehabilitate to rehabilitate a stroke victim is $24,627. So that's why the null hypothesis is the claim. Tanawan yung first line of the statement. The medical rehabilitation education reports that the average cost Mona. Question so far. Nagets ra? Na nagets ako ang point nganong ang clue is ang first statement na nakaya ra ma-digest ra ang kuan ang definition ang term ang words choice and all. Question, guys. No more question. If there's none, I think that's it. Sige, you can just continue in solving step 3, step 4, step 5 for example number 3. And I'm not going to give you an assignment for this week, guys. However, I'm going to upload a performance task for the third quarter. The deadline for that performance task is going to be on Friday, 11:59 p.m. Okay? So thank you so much, guys. No more questions?
None, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna be uploading as well the recording in Shallow after ma-convert ni Zoom. Okay? Thank you so much, guys. I'm gonna be ending the call na. And you do take care, okay?
Thank you, sir. Again, goodbye, sir.
Thank you.
Goodbye and
Again,
thank you, sir.
goodbye, sir.
Buyers.
Goodbye and thank you, sir.